What's up, Derek?
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this work session of the Danville City Commission to continue to work on our budget. We are online. If you have any questions, feel free to write them in, and we'll do our best. Mr. Miller, you want to lead the discussion?
Something I was embarrassing.
Did I miss something?
Yeah, I was like, hi, Derek, and I'm like looking around with the sheriff.
Oh.
Oh.
And she's pointing, and I'm like looking, not seeing, and then I realize, Brother Bob, like, I can't see the screen that you see. So he's our interpreter, Derek, not the sheriff, Derek, because I'm like, why is the sheriff here? Okay. We're good. And now everyone's explaining this, and I'm getting ready. Okay. So,
Can't see you, don't worry.
yeah, I guess. All right. Okay. From our last work session, we had a consensus of the commission of what the agency funding was. So Michelle and I went back and said, you know, we're close here to consensus. And at the end of the day, I know the city attorney says, hey, it's the job of the city manager. But Michelle and I felt like we were close enough and we made so much progress that let's just go to the budget and figure out where we're going to find to fund it. And so I'll let Michelle, our CFO, chime in because we went through the budget and then identified locations where we could move around the money to make up the total necessary to cover the outside agencies. So I'll do that first before we go into the next part of the agency funding discussion. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, Michelle, you want to brief them because their thing is they wanted to know where it came from.
Okay. You all identified $182,140 that you all wanted to put in agency funding. We had already had $50,000 in the budget for planning and zoning, so that left $132,140 we needed to come up with. So this is where the money comes from. We had local incentives in there for $10,000, which if we do local incentives, we'll be doing that through the money that we get from the state. So we need to take that out, and that'll be done at a later date when you all figure out what you all want to do and how much you all want to do. Contingency, I put an extra $50,000 in that. I took it back out that wasn't required to be in there. The rest is required. And then wayfinding, we took $72,140 because that's what Commissioner Cottle had suggested that we do.
How much?
$72,140, which that left in there $17,860, something like that. So that if towards the end of the year our budget starts looking better, you all might want to resume that project, and we'd have a little money in there to resume it next fiscal year. We just left it in there. Okay, that amount.
See, I got the COVID, money 10,000, the wayfinding 72, what was the third one?
Contingency 50,000.
50,000.
How much does that leave in wayfinding?
It leaves $17,860.
Okay.
And that's if you all want to use that in the next fiscal year, you know, at the end, if we decide we want to bring back that project, if things start looking better.
Yeah.
So I don't know if this might affect this or if it even needs to, but I found out today that two citizens came together with the Presbyterian Church and raised a total of $68,000. They kept 19,000 of that into a disaster relief fund. And then they gave 5 other agencies $9,800 apiece, which I think that's great. So those people that are receiving that are Salvation Army, Greenhouse 17, Family Resources, New Hope, Food Pantry, and Backpack Kids. So that's just another way that our community has come together for these agencies. What'd you say?
Give those 5 again, Salvation Army. and I got-
Salvation Army, Greenhouse 17, Family Resources, or Family Services, I'm sorry, Family
Okay.
Services, New Hope Food Pantry, and Backpack Kids. So even if we have cut some of our funding on these agencies, others are stepping up and helping us to continue those services.
And I don't know if this is a done deal. I know I also read communication, I think throughout the weekend, some dialogue, and there's a CBB meeting coming up, but there's some discussion about them funding potentially $10,000 equally to the Heart of Danville and also the Pergo Main Street program. So waiting to see if that, you know, I know money is moving around, if you will, but of course it's all tight. But you know, folks are stepping up where they can. Ultimately, as the city attorney said, you know, this is really a policy decision, and at the end of the day, that's how I interpreted the outside funding. Is that my responsibility, although it's to cut off the budget, my responsibility is to make sure that your policies are funded and services are delivered. So the outside agencies are totally separate from my service delivery. And that's sort of where we don't have that same, I see the letter of the law and the spirit of the law, and I get that. But I'm responsible for making sure that your service delivery continues and that your policies are implemented through funding. The outside agencies is a policy decision of, are you going to fund outside agencies? And I sort of kind of see that outside of, as I said, my purview.
Well, does anybody have any particular line item they want to discuss?
I do.
There was one, I had allocated 5,000 more to the senior citizens that didn't show up, which makes their average like 20,000.
I got that written down here too, Kevin, under your column.
Okay.
Third.
I think we went by, you had entered all those
I entered whatever they said was the,
Yeah,
at the
I
final.
talked about
average,
during the meeting. So.
Yeah. and whatever he gave me as the mayor gave me as averages, I put down, and that's what I called back, and that's what I put in.
And you checked the math, right?
Mhm.
Okay, all right, just checking.
So let me back up a little bit. Kevin, Kevin made a motion that you guys try to find whatever money we find to do this, and this is what you came up with. Look back at our averages, is that correct?
Yeah, we went in and double checked, made sure that that final column was accurate. The only question I have is,
I don't know about that.
yeah, I know we ran off the numbers
Right.
from the final list that the mayor, and I think we made 1 or 2 corrections when he had it.
Right.
But again, that's why I'd asked, how much is left in wayfinding? Because potentially we can move some there. It's really, again, it's a policy decision of the commission here. You know, contingency is like your emergency fund. It's, to me, it's not there to spend or move. It's there, when everything else is unforeseen, you have nowhere else to pull money, that's where you pull contingency.
I can't pull any more from this budget though, because we're required to have that contingency in the
Yeah.
budget.
So it's the wayfinding.
Will be from the wayfinding,
Yeah.
will be the next place to go from the rest of the wayfinding. If you all want to adjust these.
I'm trying to just read what that means.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right.
You want me to repeat it?
No, I think you said if you had to pull some more money, it would come from the wayfinding.
Yes, sir,
If we
because
gave this up, right?
contingency for it has to be for the budget.
And the contingency, we're trying to keep a certain amount, right?
Yes, it's required that we have so much in the budget for contingency.
And did you have a change, Kevin? I didn't hear what you had.
Would you like to add something?
Well, just, I had that extra money for senior citizens, which is $5,000 more, but I don't know where that's gonna come from.
The rest of the wayfinding,
change the
if you all want to change anything, anything.
I'm a little queasy taking the contingency money, to be honest with you. I think.
But we've taken the contingency down to as low as we can.
Right.
And still, so, but again, you know, I won't say we're joking, because it's one of those things, is the half-heartedly, we were joking, it's like, you know, trying to figure out how many times we're gonna change this budget between now and next year. I mean, over the
Right.
course of how many budget amendments, and we don't know. No one knows. So the contingency right now is down. I will tell you that I have one, you know, that Michelle's not aware of, that's why I'm glad she's over here and I'm over here. So one of the commission's priorities was economic development. But right now, today, we don't have a alternative solution, nor have we discussed one, nor have we figured out one. And so, so from a budget standpoint, the county put in 70,000 for EDP, and, you know, we're just like 7,000 shy. I think we put 6. So yeah,
63.
so I'm looking at moving 7,000 from wayfinding to match that dollar for dollar, until the commission, you know, says, no, this is the direction we want to go. Because we certainly, from the time that you all set that as a priority, there's been no discussions, there's been no approved plans, there's no positions attached to it. You don't have an alternative. But I do believe that we need to set a priority to EDP as to, if you're going to kick in 70,000, what is it that you want them focused on, which I think is important. In the past, they've just done the agency agreement and said, we've done whatever paperwork you've asked for. Well, that's contract services. And so you can't just say, we're going to do economic development for you, in my opinion. You should have a clear-cut direction. For instance, you know, you have an opportunity zone. So is that where you want them to put focus for your dollars and your spend? You want them to do it on retail, you know, what is it that you want with those contract dollars? Because at the end of the day, those are contract services. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think I mentioned before that in past years, I guess in the way back time, the application had a specific line item where you said where the city's money was going to go.
Yeah.
You couldn't just throw it in your general fund.
Even in the honor system.
Yes.
Well, certainly, yeah. I mean, you can make it a accounting entry, make it look however you want to, but that's, I think, just for covering our tracks, it's showing that we're trying to be good stewards of the money, that we should maybe implement that again in coming years.
Well,
I don't
and
know.
also, you know, we can monitor it a little bit stronger this year, especially if we're doing less funding people. And we started not monitoring it more on the people over 50,000 or 25,000 last year. We started monitoring it a lot more stringently. And we can certainly keep that up and certainly broaden that a little bit.
And
Right.
we had even gone so far as to ask to see these people, not just economic development or, to see these people more than once a year. Maybe even quarterly or at least twice a year, something we want to see and let us know what they are doing, and that just is better communication.
I think based on the minimum funding is how many times they should come a year.
Yes, that's a good idea, yes.
You know, if we're giving $100, you probably don't want to see it 4 times.
Right, yeah, we can put 100 or even 500, and we don't want to see them 4 times.
So to follow up on Commissioner Terry's comments, which we have talked about now 4 years, 5 years.
Yes.
If you would be so organized as to create some kind of schedule for the balance, for 2021, and somebody be in charge of contacting those folks and saying, you're ready to hear from them.
Yeah. So this is for your new budget year, not the money that's going out the door, because I'm trying to say, ooh, you got one more. meeting.
Starting July 1, this
Okay.
schedule we want.
That makes sense, and so once we know what the agency funding is, I mean, we can do that administratively, that's not a problem. And the public ought to know how that money, you all should have a report that's a no-brainer. So, I mean, it's easy to submit paperwork, but, it's more important to have accountability for that paperwork and the money.
And I don't mean to say, I don't think everybody's going to Vegas with our money, but I just think for transparency purposes and show we're keeping track. of what
Well, we have to be better stewards here, Tech,
Okay.
is what you're saying.
Yes.
And I think what we're saying is that it's on us more than it's on them, that we request them come. I think they'll do whatever we ask them. They do.
Yes.
I think so. I think it was, we sort of jumping off our tail, about not asking to come. Let's put it-
Between Ashley and I, we'll get it.
Right, yeah.
Between the two of us, we'll get it.
Well, we just set a minimum, like if somebody gets $500 to $1,000, because once or twice a year, anybody with $1,000,
Yeah.
Just
Maybe I'll do appropriate there.
be a whole lot of it like this time.
I mean, I would even be okay with 10,000 and less. Twice, yeah, well, it'd be once a year essentially. In 6 months, we want to see them. And then another 6 months, we'd be in another budget cycle, so we'd probably see them again. And then anyone over that, we probably need to see them more like quarterly. Which is, that's not, it's not terribly, not like it's 100 people.
No,
Then just be 5 of them.
Those agencies used to do that, and there was more to it than accountability for us. I think we all felt like it was good for the community to hear what they're doing.
Yeah, and it's for the citizens as much, if not more so than it is for us. Just informational to, hey, what are you doing? And if there's another need that we can help with, then we'll be aware of it more often and sooner.
we're gonna discuss other things about this budget.
I would like to.
So, let's get this agency funding request.
That's it. We're done.
Well, I'm saying, let's get the agency funding request off the table. Let's reach some consensus on it. That's what you're asking us to do, right?
I'll make a motion that we, just for discussion's sake, that we allocate the agency funding as written with the exception of EDP raise to 70,000.
You want to take that from the findings?
Thank you, Denise.
So first we'll
I thought you were about. Well, I was gonna suggest raising Hard Devil to 25.
Raising the hard down,
Uh-huh.
in addition to the EDP, or instead of?
Instead of,
Hey, you see him? I'll pull it up, right?
that's a much larger gap from 50 to 17 than 75 to 63. On a much smaller organization.
What now, say it again, sorry.
It's a much harder hit from 50,000, which is basically what they requested to give them 17, than, EDP requested 70 or 75, so.
EDP requested 100, Hard Devil requested 104, 674.
Well, they changed that though to 50 or something, yeah. That's what I was gonna say.
If you do both of those suggestions, that would raise it $15,000 more.
Yes.
I'm just trying to get another.
Oh, I know, yeah.
Yeah, we can take that from wayfinding.
I mean, here's the reality.
Yeah,
You've cut wayfinding so much, you're not gonna be able to do wayfinding.
It doesn't matter now.
At this point, you're to the point of no return. I mean, unless I take some cardboard and put it out there myself. I mean, it's the reality, so it's the place to take it.
I don't want us getting, I think we would be unwise to get the mindset, okay, we just found another pot of money, let's divide that out.
No,
we can't say.
Yeah.
this is specific
Okay.
allocations. So I would
You know,
I will amend my motion to include 25,000 for the hard down. To be taken out of wayfinding.
And the EDP?
And the EDP to 7.
So that's an additional 25 to the heart, on top of 17?
No.
It's branded as 25.
It's only 25K.
It's 15,000 over.
So it would make, Hard Devil at 25 and EDP at, you said 7.
Did you
That's
go
what
to
they
anything
count
for
as.
the senior citizens that you talked about?
Excuse me?
The senior citizens that your money that got allocated, if you want to do anything for it. Okay.
Just leave it, I guess. I don't really have the money. I mean, I'd love to.
No, that's fine. I just wanted to.
You want to get a second?
It did not, so.
Is there-
Somebody else can do that.
You made somebody else. Well, what was your motion, Mr. Ed?
No, you made it.
What was it?
Then we raised the heart to 25 and the EDP to 70 to be taken out of the wayfinding.
Okay,
I'll second it for discussion purposes.
okay, thank you, Mr. Terry, for your second.
But your motion also included everything else the way it is, right?
Yes.
So that's the way it is.
Don't lose that part of it.
Yeah, we don't want to do that. There are other people have.
Any constructive comments here?
I think those are the two organizations that are helping our businesses and jobs. So I think it's fair to give them as much money as we can.
Yeah, more this year than, I mean, given the circumstance.
Given the
Getting us out of this, out of this ditch.
Yes.
Oh, my question.
Question has been called. All in favor of the motion, say aye. I was like, sign, motion carries.
I saw a nice television report about the new restaurant, Hopkins, on television, about them opening up, about the struggles they had through the COVID-19.
Yeah, no, sir.
Yeah, it was what they talked about. It was really good piece, though. Highlighted them, highlighted the fact that we're still getting ready to roll with it.
Sorry, it's good. You went, didn't you?
Yeah, Barbara and I, got out of the house for, 59.2 minutes.
You know, you can get out and ride around in the car, right?
Yeah. We gave the puppy a tranquilizer and, yeah.
So.
That total was 197, 140, just for informational purposes.
197, 140? All right. Thank you.
And moving on, I wanted to make sure we discussed, Parks and Rec and make sure we are ready to go with that and.
We're onboarding, Randy's onboarding, and we're gonna help him onboard this week and next week, all the employees. And we're gonna set up, say, to do an accounting overview with them of how the accounting works and how POs work and everything. This month also,
And we're in line, budget wise with that and with the county, we've had conversations.
The county budgeted the contractual amount and then also put in the contingency amount for the other project.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
Yep.
And in case anybody.
Well, in principle, they haven't voted, just like you have.
Right,
But it
It's
is
there.
on there right now. So I don't,
budget.
it's not a done deal, but contractually, they have placed it there.
Yes.
And so with all intent, I believe that they'll honor the contract.
What page is Parks and Rec in this budget?
Oh, it's,
Well, that's what I was gonna say, on non-departmental, it's all zero, so if somebody's looking at this, they'll think we haven't funded it, but actually moved it into.
Yeah.
yes,
regular
right.
departments.
But if you look down the place, our 500,000 that we're giving them down below, it got moved to below, yes.
Because I guess used to be agency funding. And
Yeah.
now they're department funding.
Right.
So it's all different accounting.
which is why that makes that a very different conversation.
Yeah.
So they start on page 26.
What's else? Okay.
They start on page 26 and go forward.
Okay. And bringing it into the group, to the city. We're not losing any personnel in that country either, way.
No. No,
We're not losing any personnel.
no,
So they got 15, they're gonna transfer 15 in, right?
yes.
Okay, now the other question, the most important one. Employees have been used to a certain level of hourly.
We have an executive session tonight, sir, and HR will be presenting. If you would be patient for that, you will have your questions answered.
Okay, I don't have any.
No, I'm just saying for
Okay,
the
yeah,
benefit of
I wonder
presenting personnel.
I'm not fishing for anything, I just want to check, because part of my whole vote for this budget is that 125, that 140, whatever the number is, we maintain it past July 1st and 2020, that's, I'm asking that. All right. Yes.
Yes, there are no positions eliminated in this budget.
Okay. That's good.
Michelle, I had a question about, there's a line item that's called economic development. What's it called? Shoot, I lost it. Initiative, economic development.
Yeah, we took that 10,000 out.
Yeah, you just got rid of that.
We just got rid of that.
Use that to make up the difference for the agency funding.
I don't do like out on the contingency, like the 40,000.
In the past, I understand that there have been initiatives from the commission that have come up, that have involved outside agencies, and that was what that money was. So, we eliminated that and moved it over to your outside to make up the difference that y'all just voted on.
Yeah, that's the local economic incentive. What about the one above it? Just says economic development.
That's what they're giving anything.
What
That's
page
what
is
that is.
That was the
Okay.
63 that's.
So it's in two, okay. I got you.
call it? Page is.
I'm on 13. Showed up on my other list and then it was.
What did they, that 10,000, what did they spend it on in the past?
Sometimes we've given out little incentives, that we've done. We did 1 year for the tarp thing or the
Awnings.
awnings, and, it's just been little things, and we started putting that in there a couple of years ago back into it, in there, but this year, if we do it, we'll be doing it for the COVID, and we'll be taking it out of another pot of money.
Like we do you improved your HVAC, made it more
Yes.
efficient.
Yeah,
You gave you-
we did that one time, and there's just several little things that we've given incentives for before.
I don't know if it's in here or not. Michelle, is there any funds budgeted in here for, some type of cover for the stage at Whistler?
We got that one that's got a roof in it that we can get fixed
What is it?
for the stage. We got that one great big awning, it's at Public Works, and it's, I believe that's where it's at right now, but it's got a lip in it. It's canvas, and it just needs to be fixed.
Does it cover the entire stage?
I think so, doesn't it? I think it does.
You look at me, I knew.
I think it does.
I don't know what you're talking about.
We've used before.
It's on the-
It's been up a few times and it covers it. So,
I thought it did.
That might make a suggestion from Rex Spencer.
yeah,
Because
yes.
I think they're going to, in order to help save cost, I think they're looking at maybe seeing if they could have the brass band festival up there. If that's the case, we need to do something.
We need to get it fixed.
Let you guys do.
Not that-
Well, we've always rented for them, which I think some of our stuff that we've done for them, we've always rented for them. if they like it.
There's another close friend.
See, that didn't come up when I put out my query. So the query of the
Yeah.
in-kind services that we're asked for, like, that rental stuff didn't come up.
Well, we bought one, and so we had it, but it has a rip in it right now. I talked to Jennifer Kirchner about it this other night, and she said, yeah, the rip is still.
How big's the rip?
I do not know, but it seems to think that it could be some.
All right, I'll do it. Get it to-
Can you so?
No,
Oh, okay. Because I know I can.
I can duct tape.
There you go.
Well, I'm wondering, we have an upholstery factory here. I'm wondering if they can help fix it.
I've not seen a rip, I do not know, I just know there is a rip, that she said she thought it could be
How old is this campus?
a couple years old.
I'll follow up because this is the first I've ever heard of the canvas.
I've seen the little pop-up thing as uses the canopy, but I don't remember.
You've seen that, Rick?
Yeah, I remember it being there for brass band. It was a big concern to have those bands up there in that early June heat.
Holy cow, yeah.
And the other comment I wanted to make is it's a good move for us to appreciate Commissioner Terry, you get more money to art. Their Friday night thing was well attended, I thought.
Yeah.
My wife and I called over Pizza Pub, 1 hour wait. So I can see more activity happening downtown and using Whistler. And we really need to look at the shade factor down there.
They're doing it again tomorrow night, TV
Tuesday.
Yeah.
I don't know.
tomorrow? Yeah.
Pop-up
I
cafe.
got my food to go, but I'm on the turkey order from downtown and then drive through to see the crowd. Nice crowd. We're still.
It might be worth, contacting someone down at Owensboro and look at the awning structure that they have down there, which is not your conventional awning structure.
It's very nice, very nice.
It's very nice.
It's permanent.
Yes.
It's permanent, yeah.
Yeah, it's permanent.
Yeah.
It is very nice though.
Maybe out of our budget.
Well, looks are free.
That's right.
Finding the funding, you know, we can work on that, but, you know, we always have a goal.
Which if they
Might
have
be
to say,
surprised.
oh, we're going to Owensboro,
Yeah,
sure,
yeah.
they can't see it going.
You folks just mentioned some other people are gonna step in and try to help the art. So we might be surprised, we had a group of local citizens wanted to put some money up for our new fountain, and we decided it was too expensive, so as we go to Shade Wizard, you just never know, right?
And thanks for bringing that up, Rick, because as you all well recall, I'm sure, there was some kind of $5,000 reimbursement or replacement or something.
Collective, yeah.
Where is that?
It never got to us. It's been given back to the citizens, so I've heard.
Jennifer said our awning is not for the stage.
It's not for the state.
I think so, I think it's.
She watched me online?
Yes.
So ask her, who we written one from.
No, you could ask her right here. She's watching you.
I don't want to ask her that.
Hey, Jennifer,
You can't see her very
I don't want to talk to her that much.
Jennifer, where can we rent that for the state?
We rent it. We
You
rent
just
it.
text me. See, I'm ignoring my phone.
Go back.
Yeah, come back.
We're back to my 5,000 or a new fountain, whichever comes first. Or should we just let that go?
I would let it go for the moment.
It was raised by a private citizen, right?
I'm talking about these funds were, to come back to us from the architect.
Oh.
Oh,
I thought some floods raised.
Remember that?
No, I don't remember that.
Remember that?
We can get that.
Well, I remember it was talked about, it kicked around.
We haven't got it yet.
It was easier just
We came
to,
to the-
so it's not for the stage.
so are you saying that $5,000 could buy an awning or put towards an awning
Good towards them.
there?
Good.
Well, we were supposed to be reimbursed that, then yeah.
Yes, we were supposed to be reimbursed. I remember that very clearly.
Who was supposed to reimburse us?
Brad Stutter Carroll.
Okay.
It's now something else.
Let me sure finish that conversation, so you get in this. You know, jump in. You know, let's get back to
Mr. City Manager, would you?
Yeah, she did text me.
Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't looking at my phone.
Okay,
but
she says that what we rent for the stage is about $3,000 and it's what exactly what the musicians want.
All right, so that's because she afford to rent it this year.
Yeah, brass band people picked it, and that the other tent is another tent, but that some other, we didn't purchase it, other people purchased it, but she's gonna go look at it and see what it can be done with it. She said it is difficult to put up though. But the one that that goes in the stage is rented and it's about $3,000.
Dave,
Yes, sir. I was
are you
looking
looking for a
at
motion for the approval of the budget tonight, or?
No, you can't do approval of the budget. Tonight, so after chatting, we have first reading on the thing. So if you guys want to do first reading, you do first reading. If not, we just take it off the agenda. I've got a couple other budget things to chat about, but this is your opportunity to tell me, concerns, issues. We're ready to move forward, but where I need some guidance and input is going to be the CARES Act money. I have a 3-level proposition to walk you through.
Is that for this meeting right now?
Budget, yeah.
Okay.
I want you all to get your questions out first.
I'm happy. My question is, I'm just concerned about maintaining the staff. And we not said anything about salary increases for next year or anything like that. I just assume there's something in there, might be a reminder, but
They are in there. And so if you look at the budget and you look at salaries at department to department, you look at one to the other, you'll notice. And so we factored your 2% as requested from a policy standpoint. I had to make up some deficit. This is not generating the full 2%, but we included it in the budget item. That's why we're not going and saying there's that COLA or anything of that. And then we have looked at every position. The city HR director is getting really close on finishing up with Hannah on the study, but I couldn't wait for that to model some numbers. So, but yes, that is in there, and the pay parity is where we're headed in line with the study, and that's about a 3-year process because there's some interesting gaps.
and that's not included in this draft budget.
What part? The initial pay parity with trying to get folks up to the bottom, at least the bottom of the pay grade.
Yes.
Separate, because again, the HANA study's not done. So we had to model somewhere, and I have a little,
There's a little willy way in there.
I have a little heartburn because some of the hand numbers are coming in, and what we thought was the bottom isn't actually the bottom.
Yeah.
So I still need a step ladder in some areas.
So you're starting.
So we have started, we took a full 2% of what you all passed as your insurance premium tax and assigned it to salaries. But it was not done across the board. It was done based on positions and pay bands.
I thought the 2% was gonna all be into one category of salary.
Public safety?
Yes.
Yeah, they got, they make up like 70% of your salary capital outlay and budget.
And this,
That's why I said we had to make up the difference, sir, from other, because that didn't cover it.
oh, but again, that's why these meetings are so important, because, every time we meet, something comes to mind and
Sure.
we get some more information. The pay study, the parity study,
That, yes, the HANA study.
it's not complete, but it's very obvious that you and human resources have a chance to look at some of the results.
We have looked at some of the results. They are finishing up, for instance, like right now, I know that they're working on the Parks and Rec positions. And so that's the last part of, because those were never in, when they started the study, that was never on the radar.
Yeah.
So Randy's working with them to finish up on those. And so I would think, unless I'm mistaken, we can ask Randy, but I think that study should be wrapped up this month. And then Randy has been doing sort of a checkup, as I recall, next year as well, to make sure that, now, here's the downside. If the study says that, widget maker here ought to be making 50,000 and they're making 32,000 now, I can't get them to 50,000. That's the reality. So we know that there will be some angst among staff because it's going to be a public record. And so, so that's where you have to look at pay parity over a period and take into account the position, the years of service, or tenure. What I have learned, through the last couple months, we've created some angst through public safety that if you were a 12-year veteran coming in, they started you here at the base salary. Apparently that was just a course, and so we don't do that anymore. But that has caused a lot. And when you look at the number of police officers right now under contract, I think there's, maybe wrong somewhere, I think the number 17 rings a bell in my mind. So you don't want those contracts to be bought out or to be expired. You want happy, good people working for you. So they're just as eager of looking. Now, I sat down with the chief. The chief, by position, knows what those preliminary numbers are in this budget. But Chief Gray has not gone to his rank and file and shared that because he said until the budget's adopted, it wouldn't, you just wouldn't have that conversation. But he is well aware of what those numbers are.
Because David, beyond the budget, this month, next month, sometime this summer or fall, this study is going to be complete enough for you to present it to the commission, right?
Yeah, you guys will actually have a formal presentation. I'm sure that's when, every employee will either be on Zoom or what have you. Yeah, because they're all going to be just as eager wanting to see what that says. And
I think this study is going to help us with salaries and benefits, but also hopefully it will help us with positions needed or necessary for certain tasks to be achieved.
yeah, it's a great starting point for conversation.
Anything of a miscellaneous nature? Before we turn it over to Mr. Miller.
What time is it?
3:56.
Hey, see, we're doing good.
Do we need to take 5 minutes? Are you gonna be short or sweet, long? But
I'm gonna be short to the point, 25 words or less
25 words or less.
Oh,
on each of the three topics.
you just used 5 of those words already. So let's get started.
I was answering the question.
Okay, go ahead, all right. I'll try to wait till.
On the CARES Act funding, is the commission okay with allocating 10% to small business grants? We ask that because we don't want to march forward with a process and application and all of that that's necessary unless we know that the commission supports the initiative itself. Once we do all that, we'll bring criterion, the draft application, all that back to you all. But we need to know what the temperature is of the commission.
Now, are these, true grants, or are they loans, or how are they structured? They are
They're grants, and they're designed to reimburse for closure costs.
Is there a limit per grant?
We can make it a limit to the.
You're just looking for an overall budget
I
number.
have to start somewhere because you hear 1.2 million, that's 120,000. And certainly, you know, the ask or the challenge to the county is to, you know, please consider matching that so we could have $250,000 in Danville for small business grants. The state guidance has been small business. Those have been the verbiage. Have you heard anything different? So we're not talking like corporate American business like McDonald's. We're talking small business.
and are there restrictions on what they can use those grants for?
Yes, the guidance I've been given so far was it was closure related costs
Closure and reopening.
and reopening. So their PPE, the stuff that otherwise is not reimbursed to them.
Yeah.
So they can't go out and like use their payroll protection and double dip. They have to be able to say to us, these are actual incurred costs. And then we have to document that because we have to report back for reimbursement from the state.
Is it 10% a number that you and staff are comfortable with? Is that 10% been set as a limit by the state?
No, you all, from the fiduciary can set any number. The reason we set 10% is that the reimbursement of the CARES Act is to cover non-budgeted items that the city has expended. So we've already spent that money, and so it's done, it's out of your budget. That 1.2 million is coming back for unreimbursed between March 1st and December 30th at midnight.
30th on December 30th.
Yeah. And so, and it's a rolling. So we are eligible now to start submitting. The 10% number came because if the county did match, knowing that these small businesses are also taxpayers to the county, and that they also got an allotment, that it would generate about $250,000 that the county and the city collectively, through the grant program, could help these businesses for expenses they incurred during COVID-19.
Sounds good.
So is this just for existing businesses or would it be for startups?
Existing. Yeah, it was the shutdown in the open of existing small business.
Changes they had to make if they had to put up plastic, if they had to put up stuff, they could use that.
Any modifications they've had to make to reopen?
Yes, and any PPE that they've had to do and things like that.
You said somebody didn't make it or something didn't make it. What you say, Stark? You said somebody didn't make it or something? Oh, your first statement?
We didn't make it.
Yeah, she said it was just for, everybody said it was just for existing business.
Yes, it's just for existing.
Okay. So the guy from the corner just had his opening, the startup date kicked to the curb. that he would not be eligible for some.
He is eligible because they actually were supposed to open April 1st and their business license was issued. Well, their occupancy license came later, but their business license and building permit and all that, they were supposed to open April 1st,
Okay, they were.
which is no joke.
Yeah.
But that's what they were shooting for, was April Fool's Day.
And you said you had three things,
That was number one, but I used 213 words on that one.
And he used your 25 also, right?
We'll go into next week's allotment. Go ahead.
You know, earlier when you asked him, made the comment about Vegas, I was like, can I put the money on black or red? If I get double or nothing. Do that with the words. I can roll the thing and tell me how many words you get. All right, the second is, and this one is a thought process. So let this sink in. The 1.2, okay, the 10%. So if you're okay with the 10%, obviously we still have expenses and we still have the balance. So the temperature on the second part is there are nonprofit agencies in our community, in our city, that clearly provided life-sustaining services direct for COVID-19. For instance, meals, transportation, prescriptions, things of that nature. Because they're nonprofit, they are non-reimbursable through FEMA. If they were a for-profit business, it would have been reimbursable. The guidance we have gotten from the state on the CARES Act money is, on a case-by-case basis, we could submit to the state for reimbursement, and they would consider that. That being said, what's the temperature of the commission of having a separate application specifically for nonprofits to document, submit that, potentially have a cap, and submit it to the state for potential reimbursement?
out of the 1.2 million or out of separate?
It would be out of the 1.2 million pool. So right now, 120,000 theoretically would be gone.
Yes.
You have 90% more. But I still have number 3 coming to you.
Yeah, let's do number 3.
Well, let's do
before we come
number
back to
3.
2.
Okay.
See what's behind for number 3.
Remember, these are reimbursable grants. We spend it, then we ask for it. So we'll be asking for it several different times.
Exactly.
We won't spend it all and then ask for it. When we get to a certain point, we'll ask for it. I see us asking when we get the meat and potatoes of it every month.
The difference on the 10% you would spend up front, and then we'd submit. The nonprofits, we wouldn't spend anything. We would document, it'd be staff time, document, we'd submit, and get back money. And then we would transfer it to them if they got approved. The state's made it very clear. It'll be on case-by-case basis. They've said, go ahead and submit it, we'll review it case by case. Number 3 is, one of the guidance from CARES Act is hazard pay. I'm very, very proud of our staff. When you think about this, short of the fact that we had some folks that went out on FMLA because they had no childcare, this city stayed fully staffed. We did everything, every bit of guidance from the CDC, everything, kept folks employed, kept them out there working. Now, every department had their own work plans, and so a lot of things were different. For instance, like I know the police, we authorized 3 additional take-home cars because they were out, but we didn't want cross-contamination from their private car to their police car, for instance, because there was only one person, so there was a lot of moving parts to all that. So what I am recommending as part of hazard pay / employee retention is that any employee that was here through COVID-19, the initial March, April, May, June, through the city reopening July be appropriated $500 of hazard pay per employee, excluding FMLA, payable on December 15th, which means that it would also be employee retention pay. But it is being submitted as, it is hazard pay. And that would be $500 per employee.
Is it 15th of December? Okay,
Because I did not budget for hands.
you have a number of employees that will be eligible?
HR would have to,
This week, full-time employees. Full-time employees, not part-time employees.
yeah, it's full-time employees. HR knows who, because we had to track it, they know who's out on FMLA. I mean, I know some, but I don't know everything, so whoever the FMLA, they would basically get a hand.
You said a ham, right? A ham.
Well, yeah, normally, I guess normally the city is giving out like hams at Christmas.
Yeah.
So I didn't budget for hams. We significantly cut the budget on food. We have left enough money in there for, the picnic. I'm trying to bring the picnic back. Apparently it's very, very important to employees and they miss it. That was one thing that I heard, repeated. So we left enough money in there for that. But when we were cutting, you know, knowing the hams kind of got cut, when we were going line item. So, you know, again, who knows what the budget will do between now and December, but, you know, if I'm,
Can I amend that to say the first payroll in December? Whenever the first payroll is in December.
yeah, it doesn't bother me. I mean, I was just throwing out a date because it's
Right.
close enough to the holidays that,
Christmas.
First
you know,
payroll.
but it's hazard pay.
Yeah.
Not Christmas bonus,
No,
hazard pay,
That's right.
payable.
And David, this number 3, if approved, would also come out of 1.2 million.
Yes, sir. Yes, that's an eligible specific reimbursement under, the guidance that we have gotten from CLG.
CLG.
TLG, yeah, who's CLG?
I don't know who
Yeah.
CLG is.
Certified local government, where that's it.
Oh, yeah, we're in CLG, that's right, I knew I knew that. And then they are the Department of Local Government, but we're a certified local government. Okay, yeah, there you go, yeah, DLG.
So is this a either or thing, or do we,
No,
can we do all three?
You can do 1, 2, 3. Oh, yeah, let's see, no, it's not either or. Either or means this or that, you can do all 3, you can do 1, you can do 3, you can do none of them. I'm just looking for the temperature and guidance before, we try to move forward.
Staying on 3, these folks are, we're looking at giving $500 in December. They were furloughed, is that correct?
No, none of our employees were furloughed. These are folks that were made, unlike other cities. You know, I've been attending the Bluegrass, meetings, the mayor's popped in some of these. So in our region, when we're talking with these other cities, and I'm talking to the city, there's a lot of folks, they allowed their employees to go home and now they seek a reimbursement for the money they paid them while they were at home. And the state's like, no. We kept ours working and we kept our service level to the max. We just made a lot of changes, so we incurred a lot of costs to do that.
Okay.
And that's reimbursement cost. But despite all of the stress, the anxiety, everything they went through, I mean, they, if you talk to some of the folks in like the meter readers and waters, I mean, they took a lot of difficult abuse because it was very stressful out there. So that's why it's hazard pay. You know, it's, and they stuck with us.
You know, we all do, because, you know, it's, whether you're closed or you're open, you know, people are unhappy.
I was called a communist.
Yeah.
They all watched it.
Uh,
I'm like, because they're like, I pay your salary, I pay your taxes, let me in City Hall. It's like, I can't let you in City Hall. I'll take your payment in the vestibule, and I did. But yeah.
That's one of the nicer things we were called.
As we consider the 3 of these, we said yes to all three, do you think we have enough of the 1.2 million left to take care of all the things that the city has had expenses for?
The answer is yes, because it is, unbudgeted expenses and expenditures. So we have been tracking everything meticulously. In fact, we were so far ahead of other cities. Michelle's been on some of these calls with the other finance folks, and I've been on calls, with the mayors and staff from the region. I'm proud that we did that. The staff document, even the 911 system would document. And so now that they've said we go back to March 1st, you know, we already have enough documented. And, but again, it's for unbudgeted expenses.
Sure.
So our normal operating cost is on us anyway. Also, we're not allowed to use it for these utility bills. But we have an idea on that. And that is that if a small business grant is awarded and they have utility expenses that are pending, we simply just say, here's your receipt. For your grant.
I sort of get that question, but let's just say that three of these things cost us $500,000. And then we've got the 1.2 million, so we're down to 700,000. Is the 700,000 that's left enough to cover a lot of these unbudgeted expenses?
Yes, you have to remember this is a use it or lose it grant. If we don't use it by December 30th at midnight, then we lose it. State keeps it.
I understand that, but still, we have enough.
You want to make sure we get to the finish line.
Yeah.
Yes,
We're going after
But also
every
without running out of
penny.
money.
yes, we're gonna,
Every-
we're trying to.
I know, I'm about to make sure we get to the finish line with stuff.
Yes.
Well, before we start giving away. Right.
We're going to get to the finish line well before December 30th. Because there's things like when we provided overtime officers at the hospital, for instance.
Sure.
Because the state asked us to.
Yes.
All of that's reimbursable.
Yes.
We're gonna apply for everything that we possibly can apply for, all of this.
And we're doing it quicker and faster than anybody else does.
Let me ask you a question, different way.
Okay,
Okay, we do all three of these things.
yes.
We pay everything that you all have got documented. Will the bill go above $1.2 million? You don't know yet, right? You're still accumulating, right? But the
We have
one-
December 30th.
but the 1.2 million will help with a lot of things. These three things included. All right.
We wanna make sure that 1.2 million comes.
Oh, I understand that.
Like, we're waiting for that.
I'm just worried about how much of it's gonna be needed by the city before we start to get portion of the way.
Plus, we're asking for more. I mean,
Sure, I understand. Yeah.
There's lobbying going on, yes,
Yeah.
more.
It's gonna be a rolling thing between now and
The
December. but-
answer, so, you know, part of listening and then digesting before I speak, is what I just did, by the way. Was, so I failed to tell you, we're also submitting everything that's eligible under FEMA as well. So, and we're not allowed to double dip. So there are other pots that we're applying to. This is CARES Act money set aside by the federal government to the state, to the local government for unreimbursed. There are emergency things, you know, and so if it doesn't fit a FEMA pot, we submit it to the state and vice versa. For instance, like all the folks that were involved in these windows, the windows, all of that is all getting submitted. Does that help better?
My temperature says we ought to try to do all three.
Yeah.
You want to gauging temperatures.
I mean, I would like to do all three, but I know I didn't do it in 25 words or less, so I apologize. But
Well, I would say go for all three because we really don't have anything to lose, right?
you know, it's a lot better to throw out that hook and pulling a fish, or throw out a net and try to pull in everything you can. And we want to be faster ahead of everybody else, because sometimes there's uncertainty and things that happen, and so we're going quick. I understand from a conversation I had this afternoon that unless it changes, I think the county plans to file every month. Our goal is probably to file 3 times to get in and get out. Because we know the FEMA stuff is going to be slow. We'll put in for that. But that's the slow train. That's like, well, I shouldn't say the train's gonna be faster than the ship. So,
Did you say it took us 10 years? We're just now settling up with FEMA for the ice storm?
Yeah.
We just now settled up this year for $1,000, this fiscal year.
I don't know where FEMA's gonna print their money.
So basically, if there's a natural disaster that happens, that FEMA has to go out to, that'll put all this on.
Oh, yeah.
Well, these all sound good.
Back to number 2, on nonprofits, which I think it's all a good idea. We did not set a percentage there, we set it on small businesses, so that might be something to consider, but you have some examples of nonprofits that we might help out.
You know, our thought was that Michelle has asked the finance folks throughout the state, if you already had an existing type program, send us an application. I put out a request out through ICMA. And so the buzzwords I'm hearing is there are some that were delivering meals. They were actually delivering groceries, that go pick up your groceries, that go pick up your prescriptions. They would actually take you to appointment. Things that the nonprofit stepped up that was in support of life-sustaining COVID-related 19 activities. And so we plan to use the FEMA definition for that particular grant, because that seems to be, you know, what we're hearing. And we have to decide if we submit it, we need to set a max threshold limit that we'll submit. And then it's up to DLG to review it and turn it around.
Who are some local nonprofits that you think might?
I think the senior citizens done several things.
What was that, Michelle?
I think the senior citizens done some stuff.
The schools think to nonprofits?
The schools did a lot of stuff for people. You've got several churches in the area that are still doing food for people. That if you need lunch, that you can come to their church and they'll have a bag of lunch for you. There's a lot of different people that could apply for it. We don't actually know the extent of it until we get it out there, but we can't put it out there until you all agree to.
And so from ours, churches would be excluded, schools would be excluded. They would have to be registered nonprofits.
They like the food pantry, for instance.
Right, the food pantry will be able to, senior citizens
And
will
so
be able to.
the schools are eligible to file on their own. For instance, like
Yes.
right now, you see the meals and things, all that money coming into them. You know, those lunches, you know, all of those, and then there's other programs. So every eligible family that's eligible for free and or reduced lunch has resources available to them right now through that program, if they apply. So every student that was already eligible also has those available to them.
So I think Danville schools, I think, and Lincoln County schools are all on free lunches now. I'm not sure about Cole County, if they've met it probably yet. So they all could have applied for lunches through the schools.
We'll probably find out once we put the call out.
Yeah.
Of organizations we don't even know about that.
Well, I mean, we'll have to monitor them. They're gonna have to give us documentation and
Sure,
everything,
yeah.
because we'll have to turn that in. And, like David said, I think it's a good idea to put a cap on it per organization.
Yeah.
But right now, we've put out feelers, both of us have, for people that's already done stuff. I mean, I know at Owensboro gave out 150 to organize small businesses. And so we both put out feelers to people to give us their
The number three. I'm just keep in my mind trying to rack up an amount.
If you wanna go to 1,000 per employee, go for it, I get it.
No, that's not my issue.
Oh, okay.
I would love to do that, but I'm just thinking, I'm just trying to make sure that you said it's gonna be for full-time employees. They continue to work through the crisis. And, they're not on the family and medical leave. Right?
Correct, because right now, they are being paid 75% of their normal salary.
How many total employees we have right now?
You got 152 registered bank, and then, it varies from that.
But these are.
If we were totally employed, we'd have 157, unless we're gonna bring on the. I think that,
Well, that's somewhere between 70 and 75,000.
I like all three of them, and don't take it the wrong way. I really like them three. Because our employees that we do a whole lot of.
well, by your employees working full-time, we're not behind the ball. It's another, on services, so not coming in overwhelmed, and making like work, because I've talked to some cities that have either furlough or done partial time off, this one takes this week, this one takes this week, and we're really behind the 8 ball when it comes to certain things.
But and even though, City Hall was closed during a lot of this time frame, they were still exposed to people coming in here and doing things. Put themselves in some dangerous situations.
The fascinating thing about how City Hall, but it wasn't just City Hall, because, we moved a lot of employees throughout and around. I mean, for instance, we had opened the meter shop here. We collectively, in each area, took proactive action. And then here, when you think about essential employees, all the finance kept going, but at the same point, code enforcement retooled themselves, and we were an arm of the health department, at Early during that time. So when you look at how different areas, functioned and operated, because you didn't have all the counter work here, for instance, we took finance folks and moved them over to HR, and I mean, they were scanning records, and they worked with Ashley on cleaning out the record retention room. So there was a lot of stuff that was happening that was not what they normally would do, if you will, but it kept folks working, and then every week we would have a de-stress project, like painting rocks. No, we painted rocks. The whole message is we're gonna be hiding them throughout downtown. There's a plan with those rocks. But, we grew stuff,
We did,
legal stuff,
yes,
yeah.
we did.
Yeah. I still have 3 boxes of chalk here, our chalk rocks, but I mean, it's all of those, every employee contributed to keeping the city sustainable and open and moving forward. It didn't mean that they were doing what they normally would do, but they were still actively doing functions.
So you have enough from us about how to proceed with these three?
Yeah, unless you want to increase the amount, I'm all good.
I like the whole plan, a little bit concerned, we don't know how many nonprofits need our help and how many small businesses, and we put a cap on small businesses, so it'd be kind of nice if we knew who we're helping and not cut somebody off or cut them short.
Yeah, and we can always come back and look, it all is really about the budget. I do have to take care of, budget and cost, but we also knew that we would submit, that there's a difference. I call this the low hanging fruit because this is the quickest, easiest access to funding. So I'm going to submit as much as I can through and get 100% of the 1.2 million with the help of staff. And then anything else will get submitted through FEMA. And we hope one day to see that come back to us.
I've never submitted this to FEMA.
So I understand your concern, Rick, is that it's like, well, if you put 10% on small grant, if I put 10%, say, on potential nonprofits, because we won't know.
Yeah.
And, you know, and then I have 5% on employees,
But I
that's
think,
25% of it.
but anything we do with nonprofits and with small businesses, be it $500 or $5,000, it's plus, it's, they're not anticipating.
Is there any chance, that the 1.2 will be more than enough?
We hope it's not enough.
Not-
We want to get all.
Well, what, my thought process was we could revisit the employees.
Yes, we could, yes, we could revisit that.
We have another round for small businesses and.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah, that's
Because we
what I
don't know,
was-
especially
that's
for
what I was-
recurrence, especially in recurrence,
Yeah.
we don't know.
Yeah.
And so the goal is to apply and get as much of that in the pot now. There's a lot of expense. For instance, I try to make the point about we're not allowed to turn off water. And so for all these that had to wash their hands, that was COVID-19 related. Well, in their guidance, they only had guidance in there for electric utilities. And I'm like, well, what about water, wastewater, natural gas? These folks had to do all that extra stuff. I could only put one person out in a hole versus where we'd have normally two. There were so many things, like, no, can't do any of that because it's a utility. And I'm like, okay, DLG. So they whispered in my ear that on Friday, they were having a call with the feds on CDBG. And they have indicated to me to be patient because there might be something coming down the line that will help me there. But I was advocating on the phone with the Bluegrass ADD that with the state folks is that this is real cost. I have over 700 right now eligible for shut off when we normally run 100. We have now 2.5 million of receivables. Yes, 2.5, right? Yeah, and it's growing, but none of that's eligible.
Right, you can't. No, loss of revenue, they're not gonna.
Lost revenue, they said,
No,
you're not getting that reimbursed.
It's a utility.
that's right.
It's not getting reimbursed.
Not-
The only utility that is included in the guidance is electric and electric only.
But didn't you tell me he said, or didn't you just say that he said be patient?
CDBG, they said something will potentially come, but we don't know what that means. They just said, be patient, we hear you, we understand you.
Which all of ours may not be eligible for CDBG also. According to-
Well, we also have to anticipate that some customers, once they get back to working and all, will get there some normalcy. They'll pay some of that.
But we're gonna have to come up with a plan.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, I mean, in perspective, when you think about this, right now we bill in 2-month increments. All right, so, you know, we've been at this March, April, May, now June, and we cannot shut off until the governor says. And we know that folks who are claiming unemployment now, which you see in the latest guidance, I don't know if you saw that even the latest unemployment numbers are, you know, not accurate. If they all roll off starting in September, that's when we're going to feel it. And so if they haven't been paying now and they get off of employment, the question begs is how much do you think we will see of that
Yeah. If any board,
materialize?
we gotta get them back to work. That's, And like Michelle said, come up with some workable plans.
And we'll have to come up with workable plans once that time comes.
Can we have to adjourn this meeting?
You get it ready for the next one? No, no, we don't have to adjourn.
Yes.
Yeah, you got your next one at 5:30.
Even though it's a work session, okay, is there something you'd like to say, Mr.
No, I'm ready to make a motion to adjourn, but I don't want to cut David off from this month.
No, that's, that was it. That's
We have a
all I
motion
have.
to adjourn. Do I hear a second?
Can I ask, do we need another work session or?
I don't think we do.
Okay.
Do we?
I'm gonna fill in these numbers for the budget, for the second meeting. I'm gonna fill in these numbers again so that we'll adjust that ordinance so that you don't wanna have your first reading.
That was my question, is if we're gonna have.
You're gonna have to ready for the.
I'll have to read it for the second meeting.
The first reading will be at 5:30 unless you guys take it off the agenda. And then your next meeting, which is gonna be a lot of ceremonial stuff, by the way, as well, chatting with the mayor. So that one, would be your second reading and approval of the budget potentially.
That's what I wanted to know.
How ceremonial stuff you said, right?
Well, there's been a lot of stuff that's been holding over the last couple of months that, yeah,
You need to recognize.
yeah. I mean, we did it on Facebook, but it's still not the real thing.
No. I'm Mr. Donuts and you're chocolate too, baby.
Let me suggest that between now and meeting, 30, you digest the previous minutes. Is there like 7 sets?
Rich, take them all up, they're good.
Oh, I second the motion.
Motion made and seconded, further discussion. None, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carried.